Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Semi-final number 2 of my fountain pen tournament. Here are the pens that you've picked so far. These are all pens under 100 Aussie dollars that aren't from China. So join me now down on the table, take a look at the pens, do a brief walk through the bodies, size comparison, weights and measures, a writing sample. I'll give you my rough thoughts, then hand it over to you to vote for the winning pen. Here we are down on the table. Here we've got today's pens. Here we are down on the table. Here are the pens for semi-final number 2. These are the pens that you voted for during the 3 heats of the non-Chinese pens under 100 Aussie dollars. The pens we've got, there's a Platinum Preppy, Kaweco Sport and a Pilot Metropolitan. What we're going to do, we'll take a brief look through the body, we'll do some size comparisons, weights and measures, I'll do a writing sample, then I'll give you my brief thoughts and then hand it over to you to go and vote for the pen that will go through to the final. So let's start with that body walkthrough. As with the other videos in this series, not looking at the details of each pen, just really concentrating on the differences and similarities. So the first big difference, it's obvious, isn't it? The Kaweco Sport, it's a small pen, it's a pocket pen. So it's designed to be used posted. When we do our size comparisons, I will compare it with it being posted. I love the transparent nature here that we can see with the Preppy. You can see there, we've got a shimmer ink in here. I think it looks very nice and I love to see this ink flowing around. I've eyedroppered this. I have noticed, I think there is a tiny leak somewhere. I keep this sat on a piece of kitchen roll and I do see blue ink appearing on that kitchen roll. So that's something I have to bear in mind. You can get cartridges and you can get a converter for this. The converter, if you want it, you have to pay extra for. And the converter actually costs more than the pen. The Kaweco Sport, again, it's one I've eyedroppered. Had no issues with this one though with leakage. Again, you can use a cartridge. Again, you can use a converter, but they are specific Kaweco ones. So again, just be aware of that. If you decide to use a converter, it's only small, doesn't hold a lot of ink. And finally, with the Metropolitan, this one's a cartridge converter. I've not eyedroppered this because, there we go, the pen's metal. But we've got in here, this is a Pilot Con 40 converter. Let's take the caps off these. So with the Preppy, that cap pulls off. With the Kaweco, it twists off and it comes off in half, about 1.5 turns. Just pop that next there to the Preppy. Then with the Pilot, again, it just pulls off. Keep knocking the board that I'm recording on, I don't know. Got pens going all over. Let's line those up and we'll take a look at the nibs. We'll start here with the Preppy. This is an 05 nib. They don't label them as fine, extra fine, anything like that. They have 03, 05, and I think there are some other ones. The 05 to me, a bit like a medium fine nib. With the Sport, got a small nib on there. Writes beautifully though. Then on the Pilot, we've got a Pilot number 5 nib there. Let's swap on over and we'll do some size comparisons. Here we've got my size comparison. It's just the Lamy Safari. Normally I fetch in the Metropolitan as well, but seeing as it's one of the subjects of today's video, a bit hard to fetch it in to compare against itself. As I said earlier, I've posted the Sport because that's how it's designed to be used. Looking at these, the Sport, definitely the longer of the pens. The Preppy is the shorter. If we look at the sections, on the Preppy and the Sport, they look quite nice in terms of width, but the one there on the Metropolitan does look quite narrow. In the hand, we'll start with the Preppy. So the Preppy, beautiful fit, feels really nice. It's very light, that's one thing to be aware of. Got a nice length. And as I say, there, the section, really nice. One thing I would say, I would wish there was a little bit of a lip down here at the bottom. I hold my pens quite low, so I find my fingers hanging off the end, whereas those pens with a lip, at least I can rest my fingers against that lip. With the Kaweco Sport, again, lengthwise, very nice. Section width, just about spot on. Could maybe do with being a little bit wider. And we do have a tiny flare out at the bottom, which does help with the rest of my fingers. So it's got a slightly concave shape. Very comfortable, but it's also light. Very similar to that Preppy. We will look at the width measures shortly. Then with the Metropolitan, in the hand, again, nice length. The section feels a little bit on the thin side for me. We've got that nice lip though there at the bottom, so I can rest my fingers on it. The Metropolitan will post. I'm just going to pop it up there posted. Same with the Preppy, that will also post. So again, let's post that for you, just so you can see them as soon as that Kaweco is posted. I just find they both feel quite unwieldy though when I post them. Let's pop the caps on. With the caps on, as I've already said, that Sport, it's a pocket pen, it's shorter, that's the way it's designed. Very nice pen. It's a pen I often do carry around in my pocket. Because the cap screws on and off, I don't have to worry about accidentally pulling the cap off, which I would do with the Preppy and the Metropolitan. Preppy and Metropolitan, roughly the same size as that Safari, maybe both of them just a little bit shorter. Let's swap on over and fetch in the rule of measuring. Here we've got the rule of measuring. We'll start with the Preppy. Total length with the cap on, 13.8 centimetres. Unposted, that comes in at 12.2 centimetres. Posted, here we're looking at 15.3 centimetres. The width of the body at its widest part, which is about here, that comes in at 1.2 centimetres. The width of the cap, 1.3 centimetres. The section, that goes from 1.02 up to 1.07. With the Sport, so the total length of the pen, 10.5 centimetres. Unposted, don't often use it unposted, but you can get away for a sentence or so. That's 10.1 centimetres. Posted, it's a quite respectable 13.3 centimetres. The width of the body, that comes in at 1.06 centimetres. The cap, 1.34. The section, it goes from 0.95 up to 0.98. So definitely thinner than we see there with the Preppy. Finally, with the Pilot Metropolitan. So the full length of the pen, 13.9 centimetres. Unposted, 12.5 centimetres. Posted, just get that lined up properly. Here we're looking at 15.3 centimetres. The width of the body I measured about here. That comes in at 1.3 centimetres. The width of the cap, again measuring about here, 1.3 centimetres. The section, 0.85 up to 1.05. And this is again what I was saying about being just a little bit too small for me. Let's get this out of the way and fetch in the scales of weighing. Here we've got the scales of weighing. Starting with the Preppy, 12 grams. Now remember there is some ink in here. Unposted, 8 grams. The cap, 4 grams. As I say, a very light pen. With the Sport, 12 grams, so the same weight, but because it's smaller, it just tricks my brain, so it does feel a little bit heavier. Body alone, now remember we've got ink, 8 grams, and the cap, 4 grams. So we're looking there, exactly the same weights. And the Metropolitan, slightly heavier pen, 26 grams. For the body alone, 16 grams, so the body alone of the Metropolitan weighs more than the full pens of both the others. The cap, 10 grams. let's swap on over and fetch in the notepad of testing. Just dropping in to interrupt your regular programming. Would you like to help support the channel? If so, please consider joining as a member. As a member, you'll get early access to my videos. I normally upload them a couple of days before they go out, and as soon as they're uploaded, they'll be released to members. There'll also be a shout out at the end of the videos, and then as we get the members coming in, we'll actually chat among ourselves and work out what other perks, what other things you'd like me to add in. Would you like maybe a monthly live chat just for members? All down to us. So please, if you can, consider joining the channel. A link will be in the description down below. Here we've got the notepad of testing. For the semi-finals, I'm using this Apica notebook. Now, one thing from last week's, I did notice, I didn't look at the time, it's bled through quite a lot, and it's also come onto the next page. So that's why I've now got this sheet here. I don't use this guide sheet very often, so I don't mind if I get some ink on it. So what we're going to do is start with a Preppy. I'm just going to turn it slightly on an angle. So we've got here a Platinum Preppy. Just going to give it a bit of a shake. I want to make sure I've got that shimmer in suspension with a 0.5 nib. The price for this, approximately $9 Aussie dollars. The ink by Diamine, and it's Subzero. Beautiful blue ink. Let's have a look at the Wasky Swirl grid. Now this is where it bled through last week, but I do put the ink on fairly thick in this. So there's going up and down, side to side. Then we've got our grid. And then some diagonals. Drying times. So there's immediate. Looks quite dry, doesn't it? 10 seconds. Teeniest bit of a smudge. Go on, we'll do 30 seconds. We're dry there, but we expected that after that 10-second test. Can we see any of that shimmer coming through? Let me just lift it up to the camera. Yeah, certainly there where I've done the grid, we've got a gorgeous, I want to say it's like a blue shimmer coming through. So we've got blue on blue there. Looks very nice. So that's the Platinum Preppy. Up next, we've got the Kaweco Sport. Again, I'm just going to give this a little bit of a mix. This isn't the same Sport that we used in the heat. That ran out of ink, and I already had this inked up, but I thought we'll still use it because it's the same model. So let's take the cap off this, and we've got here a Kaweco Sport with a 1.1 stub nib. Price for this comes in at 43 Aussie dollars, so a big massive jump in price. The ink by Diamine, and it's Olive Swirl. Again, it's another shimmer ink. Let's do our grid, up and down. That stub nib beautifully filling this in. Side to side there, so taking a lot more swipes there. There's our grid part, and here's our diagonals. Really see the nature of that stub in this. Drying times, immediate. 10 seconds. 30 seconds. That's another one dry at 30 seconds. Just going to hold this up to see if we can see any shimmer. There's not much coming out there in the writing, but again in the grid, seeing quite a bit there. So that looks quite nice. I do find with this ink, regardless of the pen, I do struggle to see the shimmer in the writing. So this is that Kaweco Sport. Finally, the Pilot Metropolitan. who decides not to write. I think that was down to having the cap on and off so much. So finally, the Pilot Metropolitan. This is a lot scratchier than the other two. This is a fine nib. Price for this, you're looking about 23 Aussie dollars. The ink is by Diamine, and it's Red Robin. This is just a standard ink. Because of the fineness of this line, I don't see the point in trying a shimmer ink. So let's do our Wasky Swirl grid. Now hopefully in a minute when I do the writing with the mic down to the page, you'll be able to hear how scratchy this is. Drying times, there's immediate, almost dry there, 10 seconds. Still getting a little tiny smudge, just for completeness, we'll do 30 seconds. There we go, after a minute that's nice and dry. So it's a Pilot Metropolitan. I'm going to reposition the paper, then I'm going to fetch each pen back, and I'm going to write a sentence with each of them. As I'm writing the sentence, the mic, it will be down near the paper so you can hear the pen write. We'll start with a Preppy. That's very smooth. It feels like it's gliding over the paper. Not getting very much in the way of tactileness other than that gliding feel. It's got a nice whisper to it. Really enjoyable, really nice to write with. And for a $9 pen, it's amazing, isn't it? Next up, we'll have the Kaweco Sport. We've got a bit more tactileness to it. So now we're not feeling like we're gliding. We're feeling like it's going over the paper. So you can feel it going over the paper, but it's not unpleasant. It's actually quite nice. Really nice. I really enjoy writing with the sports because they all seem to have a really nice feedback. I do like this 1.1 stub nib as well with a natural line variation. And finally, the Metropolitan. That is very scratchy and it feels like it's catching the paper, especially when I'm doing a line going upwards. It's as if it's getting hold of some of the threads of the paper and actually holding back the nib. It's all right. I wouldn't say this is an overly textured paper. It feels quite smooth, but it's not enjoyable. Or certainly I'm finding it not enjoyable because it's just catching so much. If it wasn't catching, yeah, it would actually be quite nice. Let's move the page and we'll take one final look at the pens. Today's pens. We've got the Platinum Preppy. We've got the Kaweco Sport. Let me just get that so we can see the name. I like to have the name there showing. And we've got that Pilot Metropolitan MR3. Three fairly inexpensive pens. Three pens that I'm glad I've got in my collection. The Preppy, very nice. Eyedroppered it, that's my choice. I'm getting a little bit of ink leakage, so what I'll do when I've finished this ink and when I've cleaned it out, before I ink it up again, I'll put some more silicone grease around the threads. That hopefully should fix it. It could be because it's been inked up a few times, so as I've cleaned it out, chances are that silicone grease has just worn thin. The Kaweco Sport, very useful pen, Easy to drop in your trouser pocket, easy to drop in a shirt pocket. No one would know you've got it. It's very easy to carry around. Very nice in the hand, comfortable to write with. The Metropolitan, it's a nice classic looking pen. You know, I don't mind the shape of it. I deliberately bought it in red. I like the red, it's a nice pop, and you know, I do tend to keep a reddish ink in there. It catches so much though. It's not nice for note taking. What I keep this for is for my size comparisons. Then occasionally I'll ink it up if I know I'm going to be doing something where I need to go through and correct what I've done. I like to see corrections done in red. That's just my personal preference. I know nowadays it's not really looked on because it's thought of as being negative. I just think it's brilliant because it highlights, makes it easier to see. So head on over to my YouTube community page. There you'll find a poll where you can vote for the pen that you'd like to go forward into the grand final. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. So, here are the pens. Which one do you want to win? Head on over to the YouTube community page. There you'll find a poll where you can vote for the winning pen for this semi-final, and it goes forward into the grand final. What do you think of these pens? What are your thoughts on them? I'd love to know that as well. Please drop a comment down below. Let's kickstart the conversation. Please hit the thumbs up button. Every time you like, every time you comment, just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.